Welcome. Thank you for the nice introduction. Tonight, I thought it would be interesting to talk about the innovation or the intersection of innovation and culture, and particularly a little question for you. So if you think about your organization, what is the value of a single line to your organization when placed on the right piece of real estate? And the piece of real estate that I'm going to talk about this evening is this one, the very famous, very popular Starbucks Frappuccino. So a lot of people know the history of how Frappuccino started. There were a group of managers down in LA. We had just opened the Los Angeles market. Starbucks had 5 whole stores in LA. And one of the managers, Dina, realized that in order to best serve her customers in this market, she was going to need to add something beyond just an iced mocha and an iced latte. And so she and her district manager, Ann, went out, they grabbed a blender, started making new products, and great, perfect for LA sunny weather. But they had bigger dreams. And they thought, what if? A friend of theirs had just moved up to Seattle to work in the operations team. And they thought, well, if we could reach out to him, maybe we can pitch to get this added on as a permanent product. And that's exactly what they did. This team of partners worked together, created a product, pitched it to the organization. It was approved in the winter of 95 to roll out in the spring of 95, which meant that the project team basically needed to go create processes, find blenders, and figure out how to redesign all 600 of our stores in a matter of months. So that was the background for Frappuccino itself. It launched to rave reviews. There were only 2 Frappuccinos back then, but all across America, people accepted it and were really excited. The problem was the product, while wildly successful, was also wildly inconsistent. And Starbucks had built its reputation on delivering very consistent, high quality, handcrafted espresso drinks. This was a new world to us, and a world of inconsistency was not one that felt good to the brand. Our customers noticed, and our senior leaders noticed. So what landed on my desk as a project was, hey, Jessica, we need you to go out and redesign all the training for Frappuccino so that we can make sure we train our people the right way to make this product. Now, I was a former barista, and in the back of my mind, my question was like, really, how hard could this process be? It was a pretty straightforward thing. You take a cup, you fill it with ice. You pour in liquid till the ice floats, pour it in the blender, and then blend. Should be able to get it right, right? Well, here's the great thing. When I went out to the field and I looked around, it was consistent. Behaviors were consistent across stores, across experience levels of baristas, but I had a problem. The beverages were not. And so while it wasn't a hard process, it also wasn't good. And so after spending a little time looking at it, what I realized is I did not have a training problem, but I definitely had a problem that I was going to need some help with. So I ended up, don't want to steal the secret. I ended up reaching out to a couple peers of mine, Len and Tim. And Len and Tim and I had all been baristas in about the same generation, but gone different places in the organization. So Tim was now working in our great R&D lab. Len was responsible for test products across the company. Whoops, I don't know what is going on here. Someone's doing something with my slide. Who knows? But anyway, so Len was responsible for test products. And when we got together, we realized pretty quickly what the problem was, and we thought we had a pretty good solution. So who can guess, why do you think I was having a problem with inconsistency with these beverages? Pretty straightforward process. Water? What about the ice? Ice cubes were pretty standard, but the space between ice cubes varied. And as a result of that, the liquid in each cup varied and the product varied. So we came up with what we thought was a pretty good solution. We just changed the order of the way you made the drink. Because if we could control the consistency of the liquid, we could control the consistency of the beverage. And so we thought, hey, why don't we add a line to this cup? And because we were all super young and super enthusiastic, we didn't think it should be any problem to change an iconic cup in a brand. And so off we went to the procurement people, who were very nice and said, well, yes, we can do it, but you're going to need to provide us with artwork. So Jan was really kind to us. We went off to the art department and we said, hey, we'd like to put a line on the cup. And they were like, yes, but you'd need to have R&D give you the standards for it, because we don't just put lines on cups. So luckily, Tim was on the team. So Tim was able to go back, got us the right measurement. We got the cups. They got rolled out across the Pacific Northwest. Tim launched them across the whole market, but he was doing a test in the pilot district. And we knew we were onto something good, because at the moment we launched it, not only did the product improve instantly, but baristas in adjacent districts started changing their behaviors before we had taught them how to do it. And we had told them to ignore the line, but they ignored us because they cared so much about beverage quality. So here it is, a super simple process. We took the time to change the process and change a line. Liquid ice blend serve, but that little green line contributed $1 million in savings to the company the first year we rolled it out from reduced cost of goods. And that's what I call a simple and sweet solution. So in the years since I've left Starbucks, they've grown a lot. They're now at 33,000 stores, 79 countries. But one of the things that's been really fun for me to watch as a customer is how the innovation in Frappuccino has also continued. New products, more customization, more optimization. Green tea Frappuccino from one of our international markets has gone global. Such cool stuff. But my personal thing that I get excited about is what is consistent with all that innovation is that little green line. If you go buy your Frappuccino today, it will still be there. So the project, pretty straightforward. A great idea, followed by a person who could help them ideate it and get it rolled out at the speed of espresso, which compared to China seems like decaf, but at the time it seemed really fast. Widely accepted, and this little innovation brought $1 million to the bottom line. But what we thought was really great about this was that everyone involved in this project was actually in their early 20s. We had no authority, we had no budget. But what we did have is a sense of purpose around the organization. The folks that invented the product got the President's Award that year, as they should. Those of us on Libs got the Spirit of Starbucks Award, and I got in a little bit of trouble with my manager. Apparently, I demonstrated just a smidge too much entrepreneurial spirit. But, because I was in training, we didn't create standards. But the thing when I look back on it is what made it really brilliant was this idea that each one of us actually worked exactly within our sphere of influence and responsibility, but we would walk over right to the edge, reach out and ask for the help from the adjacent person. And by coming together with this strong sense of purpose, we were able to roll out this initiative. And it's really driven by Starbucks building in us this culture of innovation, this culture of ownership. How do we as individuals make the company better because the company takes care of us? How do we hold ourselves accountable to the highest standards? So I left you a couple sips to consider for you as business owners and new entrepreneurs, and they're the following. Do you value simple solutions or just sexy solutions? Because that $1 million line also probably paid for 3 or 4 stores that year, which brought in more revenue as well. Are you building ownership of individuals, but also the processes for their insights to be heard and executed upon? Do you create a trust and try culture with your international markets so they have a chance to bring new ideas forward? And more importantly, I think maybe in this audience is, are you creating products or are you creating platforms that can grow with you, your organization, and your customers? So for me, a lot of value in organizations get lost between the insights of your people and their ability to get traction on innovating those insights. And that's a lot of responsibility for us as the leaders in the organization. So my $1 million question for you is this: how many $1 million lines and $1 billion businesses are currently hiding inside your organization? And I wish each of you the best of luck in finding them And if you're just new in your career, I do a hats off to Len and Tim and say, keep an eye out for your $1 million line, because regardless of your level in the organization, you have a huge opportunity to add value. So thank you so much.